My name is Maya, and I have spent my entire life watching my brother build an empire from nothing. Then I walked into his company on my first day and discovered that the woman he was about to marry had already made it her personal mission to destroy me. This is the story of how I almost lost everything because one woman decided I was beneath her. Let me back up to the very beginning because that is where all of this really started. Daniel and I grew up in a small coastal town on the edge of the Pacific. Our father was a marine biologist who spent more time in the water than he did on dry land. He studied deep-sea ecosystems, and he was obsessed with the creatures that lived in the dark. He would come home with salt in his hair and stories about giant squid and bioluminescent jellyfish. Our mother died when I was 3. I do not remember her face. I only remember the way Daniel used to hold my hand at her funeral and whisper that everything was going to be okay. He was 10 years old. He should not have had to comfort anyone. But he did. He stepped up in ways that no child should have to. He cooked breakfast. He packed my lunch. He made sure I did my homework and brushed my teeth and never went to school with holes in my shoes. He was my brother, my parent, my protector. And I never once doubted that he would always be there for me. Then our father died. A research accident. His submarine got caught in a deep-sea current, and he never came back up. Daniel was 17, and I was 10, and we were suddenly completely alone in the world. There was no extended family to take us in. No safety net. Just the two of us. Daniel dropped out of high school and started working construction to keep us afloat. He came home every night with calloused hands and dirt under his nails, and he never once complained. He helped me with my science projects. He read me bedtime stories. He told me that I was going to do something amazing with my life. He said he would figure out a way to make sure I had every opportunity. And he did. He started a small marine engineering company with nothing but a single research vessel and a handful of small contracts. He worked 16-hour days for years. He built relationships with clients. He hired talented people. He expanded. He grew. And 10 years later, Hayes Industries was worth more than I could possibly comprehend. Daniel had become a billionaire. But he never stopped being the same man who used to carry me on his shoulders through the tide pools. I spent those years in school. I studied marine engineering. I focused on sustainable underwater energy systems. I patented a technology that the industry had been chasing for decades. And I kept my head down and worked and never once asked Daniel for anything because he had already given me everything I could ever need. 3 weeks ago, I finished my last research project and I decided it was time to come home. Not to the small coastal town where we grew up. To the city where Daniel had built his empire. I wanted to work with him. I wanted to be part of something real. I wanted to finally stand beside him instead of just watching from a distance. He was so excited when I told him. He said he had prepared an entire wing of the headquarters for me. A lab. An office. A private research facility with the best equipment money could buy. He said he had something special planned. He said he missed me every single day. He said he could not wait to see me. I could not wait either. The morning I arrived, I wore simple clothes because I wanted to blend in. I wanted to see the company through normal eyes before anyone knew who I was. I wanted to understand the culture, the people, the energy of the place. Daniel had told me to come straight to his office, but I decided to explore first. That was my first mistake. I walked into the R&D wing and a woman practically crashed into me. She was tall and polished and wearing a suit that cost more than my entire wardrobe. Her nails were perfect. Her hair was perfect. Her smile was sharp and cold. Her name was Vanessa, and she was Daniel's fiancée. I did not know that yet. All I knew was that she looked at me like I was something stuck to the bottom of her shoe. She said, "What are you doing here?" She said this area is restricted. She said I needed to leave immediately. I started to explain that I was new, that I had just arrived, that I was looking for the research lab. She cut me off. She grabbed a large glass model from a nearby shelf. It was a prototype of an underwater turbine. Beautiful. Intricate. Fragile. She held it up and said, "This is a one-of-a-kind prototype worth $200,000. She said if I broke it, I would be paying for it for the rest of my life. I did not touch it. She dropped it herself. On purpose. The glass shattered across the floor in 100 glittering pieces. She screamed that I had done it. She said I was clumsy and stupid and I would never amount to anything in this company. I stood there stunned. My first day. My first interaction. And I was already being framed. She grabbed my wrist and squeezed until I yelped in pain. She said I needed to apologize. She said she could have me fired. She said her fiancé was the CEO and nobody would ever believe me over her. I pulled away. I said if she was really the CEO's fiancé, then she should be ashamed of herself. I said I would tell Daniel everything. She laughed. She said I looked like a broke nobody from the sticks. She said I had probably never seen that much money in my entire life. She said she would love to see me try to explain anything. Then she walked away and left me standing in the wreckage. I stood there for a long moment looking at the shattered glass on the floor. A few employees had gathered in the hallway. They had seen what happened. But they looked away when I made eye contact. They were scared of her. I could see it in their eyes. One woman hurried over with a broom and started sweeping up the pieces without saying a word. I thanked her. She looked up at me and whispered, "Be careful." She said Vanessa has done this to other people too. I asked what she meant. She just shook her head and walked away. That was the first time I realized that Vanessa was not just bullying me. She had been terrorizing this entire department for years. I went to Daniel's office that afternoon and I did not tell him what happened. I could not. He was so happy to see me. He hugged me for a full minute and said he had missed me every single day. He showed me the lab he had built. The state-of-the-art equipment. The private research space with its own climate control system and reinforced floors. He said he was going to announce my arrival at a board meeting the next day. I told him I wanted to wait. I said I wanted to observe first. I said I wanted to see how things worked before anyone knew who I was. He agreed. He always agreed to whatever I wanted. That night, Vanessa came to his office. I was still there. Daniel introduced us. He said, "Maya, this is Vanessa. Vanessa, this is Maya." He said she was the most important person in his life besides me. Vanessa looked at me with recognition in her eyes. She knew exactly who I was now. Her face went pale. I saw the fear flash through her expression before she smothered it with a smile. She said, "Oh my God," she said she had been hoping to meet me. She said she was so excited to welcome me into the family. She said Daniel had told her so much about me. I smiled and said nothing. The next few days were a nightmare. Vanessa could not stop me now. Not openly. So she attacked me in other ways. She spread rumors that I was sleeping with the board members. She told people I had gotten my position through nepotism and had no actual qualifications. She had security follow me around and report on my movements. She made my life a living hell. Every morning I would find passive-aggressive notes taped to my door. Every afternoon I would discover that my work files had been moved or deleted. Every evening I would receive anonymous emails full of threats and insults. I kept copies of everything. I was building a file. I knew that if I went to Daniel without proof, he would believe me, but he would also be devastated. His fiancée. The woman he trusted with his heart and his company. I wanted to protect him from that pain as long as I could. I started talking to the other employees in the R&D wing. At first, they were terrified to speak with me. They knew Vanessa had eyes everywhere. But slowly, I gained their trust. A woman named Molly became my first real ally. She was a researcher who had been with the company for 6 years. She told me that Vanessa had been systematically bullying and firing anyone who crossed her. She said Vanessa had been embezzling funds through a network of fake suppliers. She said she had forged Daniel's signature on purchase orders. She said she had fired anyone who tried to report her. Molly kept a diary of every incident. She had copies of emails. She had recorded conversations. She gave me everything she had. I asked her why she was willing to risk her job. She said because someone had to stop her. She said she had seen too many good people destroyed by Vanessa's cruelty. She said she believed I was strong enough to fight back. That meant more to me than she would ever know. Then Vanessa escalated. She cornered me in the basement storage room where I was cataloging old equipment. She had her assistant Marcus with her. He was a big man with dead eyes and a permanent smirk. She said she knew I was planning to ruin her. She said she would not let that happen. She grabbed the locket I was wearing around my neck. The one with our father's picture inside. The only photo I had left of him. She yanked it off and held it up. She asked what this piece of junk meant to me. She said I could have it back if I got on my knees and begged like a dog. I refused. She ripped the locket open and pulled out the photo and burned it with a lighter she pulled from her pocket. She said there was nothing I could do about it. She said I was nobody, and I would always be nobody. I saw my father's face curl up in the flame, and something inside me broke. I attacked her. I tried to get the locket back. She smashed my hand with a metal pipe that Marcus handed to her. I heard bones crack. I felt the pain rip through my arm like fire. Then she kicked me in the face, and I fell, and everything went dark. I woke up in the hospital with Daniel standing over me. He was crying. He was holding my hand and saying he was sorry. He said he had failed me. He said he would find whoever did this and make them pay. I did not tell him. I could not. The pain was too much, and the shock was still wearing off. I told him I did not remember. I said maybe I tripped. I said maybe it was an accident. He did not believe me. But he let it go. For now. The doctor said my hand might never fully heal. They said I might never have fine motor control again. I am an engineer. My hands are my tools. My instruments. My connection to the work that I love. I stared at the ceiling that night and I felt something break inside me. Not my hand. My heart. I had worked so hard. I had sacrificed so much. And one woman had taken it all away in a moment of cruelty. But I also felt something else. Resolve. I would not let her win. I would not let her take my brother. I would expose her. And I would do it in a way that left no room for doubt. I spent the next week recovering and planning. Molly came to visit me in the hospital. She brought flowers and a folder full of additional evidence. She said she had found more documents. She said she had recorded 2 more conversations with Vanessa. She said she was scared, but she was committed. I told her she was the bravest person I had ever met. I also called a private investigator. I had saved money over the years from my research grants. I hired him to trace Vanessa's financial records. He found offshore accounts. He found luxury purchases that did not match her salary. He found a trail of money that led directly to Marcus. The picture was becoming clearer. Vanessa had been siphoning money from the company for at least 4 years. She had stolen millions. She had used Marcus as her enforcer. She had built a web of lies that would take years to untangle. But I was patient. I was thorough. And I was not going to stop until she was destroyed. Daniel wanted to throw a banquet to welcome me home properly. He said it would be a great way to celebrate my return and introduce me to the board and the partners. He said he had big news to announce. I agreed. I told him I was looking forward to it. Vanessa was put in charge of planning the banquet. She went overboard. Flowers from Europe. Chefs flown in from Italy. A 7-tier cake that cost more than most houses. She wanted to impress me. She wanted to make up for everything. I let her think she was succeeding. The night of the banquet, I walked in wearing a simple silver dress. Nothing flashy. Nothing that would distract from what was about to happen. Vanessa rushed up to me and gushed about how beautiful I looked. She said I was truly worthy of being Daniel's sister. She said she had worked so hard to make everything perfect. I said nothing. I just smiled. Then I saw her looking at my locket. The one she had destroyed. I had had it repaired. The photo was gone, but the locket itself was restored. She froze when she saw it. I said, "You recognize this, don't you?" She said no. She said she had no idea what I was talking about. I leaned in and whispered that I remembered everything. I said the locket she burned, the hand she crushed, the face she kicked. I said I was not going to let her get away with any of it. She panicked. She started shouting that I was an imposter. She told security I had crashed the party. She told everyone I had no invitation. She said I was a con artist who had been stalking her for weeks. The room went quiet. People started whispering. I could hear the doubt spreading like wildfire through the crowd. Then Daniel walked in. He saw me and his face broke into a smile. He said, "Maya, you look beautiful." He said, "I am so glad you made it." He kissed my cheek. The room went dead silent. Vanessa's face turned white. Daniel looked around and asked what was going on. Vanessa tried to speak, but nothing came out. I stepped forward and said, "Vanessa has been lying to you for months." I said she has been embezzling funds and bullying employees, and she is the one who smashed my hand. Daniel stared at me. He stared at Vanessa. He said, "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone and projected the evidence onto the screen behind me. The financial records. The forged signatures. The emails. The recordings. Everything. I showed them the footage from the basement storage room. The one that Vanessa thought she had deleted. The one Molly had recovered. On the screen, Vanessa was standing over my unconscious body. She was laughing. She was talking to Marcus about what they would do with the photos they had taken. She was saying I would never be able to testify against her because I would be too scared. The room erupted. People were shouting. Board members were demanding answers. Vanessa started crying and begging and saying it was all a misunderstanding. She said I had set her up. She said the footage was fake. She said Daniel had to believe her. Daniel walked over to me and took my hand and looked at the bandages and said, "Maya, I am so sorry." He said I did not know. He said I should have seen it. He said I should have protected you. I said it was not his fault. I said I had wanted to protect him. I said I had waited because I did not want to break his heart. He turned to Vanessa and his face was cold. He said she would never be part of this family. He said she would never be part of the company. He said she was going to prison. Vanessa tried to run. Security grabbed her. She screamed and fought and said Daniel would regret this. She said she was the best thing that ever happened to him. She said he would never find anyone else who loved him like she did. He said good. She was dragged out. Marcus tried to follow, but I stopped him. I said he was complicit. I showed the evidence linking him to the embezzlement. He was arrested too. The banquet was over. But the celebration had just begun. Daniel announced that I would be taking over as head of research and development. He said I had already proven my leadership. He said the breakthrough that made the company double its value was my research. My work. My sweat and tears. He called me to the stage and handed me a plaque with my name on it. He said, "Maya Hayes, President of Research and Development." He said he was so proud of me. I started crying. I could not help it. The room gave me a standing ovation. Board members shook my hand. Employees came up to me and thanked me. Molly hugged me and cried. She said we finally did it. I said we did. A month later, Vanessa went to trial. She was convicted on 19 counts of fraud and assault and embezzlement. She was sentenced to 25 years. Her father tried to bribe the judge. It did not work. Her mother wrote me a letter begging me to drop the charges. I did not respond. During the trial, Vanessa tried to claim that she had been coerced by Marcus. She said he was the mastermind. She said she was just a victim. The jury did not believe her. Marcus cooperated with the prosecution and got a reduced sentence. 12 years. He will be out when he is 40. I hope he spends that time thinking about what he did. The trial was covered by every major news outlet. Daniel gave a statement saying that the company had been deceived by a manipulative woman. He said he took full responsibility for not seeing the truth sooner. He said he would do everything in his power to make sure nothing like this ever happened again. He was interviewed on national television. He talked about me. He called me a hero. I watched the interview from my apartment and I cried all over again. Molly got a promotion. I made her the head of my new research division. She had been too scared to speak up before. I gave her the platform to tell her truth. She is brilliant and loyal, and she deserves everything she gets. Daniel took a long break after everything happened. He said he needed to process. He said he had trusted Vanessa with everything, and she had betrayed him in the worst possible way. I told him he was not the first person to be fooled by a good liar. I said the important thing was that he had believed me in the end. He said he would always believe me. We went back to our coastal town for a few weeks. We walked on the beach where we used to play as children. We visited our father's grave, and we both cried, and we both promised him that we would take care of each other. We had been doing that our whole lives. We were not about to stop now. When we returned to the city, I started my new role. I expanded the lab. I hired more researchers. I worked on new energy systems that could change the world. I used my injured hand as a reminder of what I had overcome. It healed, but it is not the same. Some things never heal completely. I am okay with that. I started a mentorship program for young women in STEM. I wanted to give them the support I never had. I wanted them to know that they did not have to fight alone. I held workshops and gave speeches, and I told my story to anyone who would listen. I spoke at universities and conferences. I wrote articles for industry journals. I became a voice for people who had been silenced by workplace bullying. Vanessa tried to appeal her conviction. It was denied. She tried to get early release for good behavior. It was denied. She wrote me another letter from prison saying she was sorry and that she hoped I could find it in my heart to forgive her. I wrote back one sentence. I said, "Forgiveness is earned and you have not earned anything." Daniel started dating again. Slowly. Cautiously. He met a woman named Sarah who works in marine conservation. She is kind and patient, and she does not care about his money. She asked me for my approval before they got serious. I told her she had it. He proposed to her 6 months later. She said yes. I was his best woman. I stood next to him at the altar, and I cried like a baby. He said he had finally found someone who loved him for who he was, not for what he had. I am happy for him. Really. The company is doing better than ever. The new energy system I developed doubled the market share again. We expanded into 3 new countries. We were featured on the cover of every major business magazine. Daniel put my face on the cover of our internal newsletter with the caption, "Our Future." I still keep my locket in my pocket. The one without the photo. The one she burned. I never replaced the picture. I do not need to. I remember my father's face. I remember his voice. I remember the way he told me that I could do anything I set my mind to. He was right. Vanessa destroyed my hand. She burned my photo. She tried to take everything from me. But she did not break me. She only made me stronger. That is the thing about people like her. They think cruelty is power. They think fear is control. They think they can crush anyone who stands in their way. But they are wrong. The people who survive are the ones who keep getting up. The ones who refuse to be silenced. The ones who fight back with evidence and patience and the truth. I did not just survive. I thrived. Daniel and I have a new tradition now. Every year on the anniversary of that day, we go to the beach. We build a bonfire. We talk about our father. We talk about what we have been through. And we remind each other that we are the only family we have left, and nothing will ever change that. Last year, I brought my team from the lab. Molly was there. Sarah was there. We roasted marshmallows and told stories and laughed until our stomachs hurt. Daniel looked at me and said, "We made it." I said, "We always do." The day after the banquet, when Vanessa was arrested, I collapsed in my apartment. I had been running on adrenaline for weeks, and suddenly it all hit me. I cried for an hour. I called Daniel, and he came over, and he held me, and he said it was okay to break down. He said I had been strong long enough. He told me that he was proud of me. Not because of my achievements. Not because of the evidence I had gathered. Because I had stayed true to myself. Because I had not let her turn me into someone bitter and vengeful. Because I had protected him even when I was the one who needed protecting. That is what family means. Not blood. Not obligation. Showing up for each other even when it is hard. I look back at that first day in the R&D wing, and I cannot believe how much has changed. I was so scared. So uncertain. I thought my whole life had been a mistake. I thought I would never belong. Now I run the place. I sit in the office that was supposed to be Vanessa's. I look out at the city, and I think about all the women who will come after me. The ones who will not have to fight as hard because I already fought for them. The ones who will know that they belong from the very first day. That is my legacy. Not the patents. Not the money. Not the title. Showing the next generation that they are enough. Vanessa is still in prison. She sends me letters sometimes. I do not read them anymore. I have moved on. I have stopped letting her take up space in my mind. Daniel married Sarah in a small ceremony on the beach. I gave a speech. I said that family was not about who you were born to. It was about who showed up for you when everything fell apart. I said Daniel had shown up for me my whole life, and now I was watching him finally get the love he deserved. Sarah cried. Daniel cried. I cried. It was perfect. I am in a good place now. I have healed as much as I ever will. My hand still hurts sometimes. It always will. But I have learned to work around it. I have learned to adapt. I have learned that my value is not in my body parts. It is in my mind and my heart and my stubborn refusal to give up. That is something Vanessa will never understand. She thought she could break me by breaking my hands. But she forgot that I also have a voice. And that voice is louder than any lie she could ever tell. I am Maya Hayes. I am an engineer. I am a sister. I am a survivor. And I am just getting started.